Hi, you guys. So this is gonna be a very emotional, long video. So if you've been subscribed to me, you've probably seen me post the memorial video for my dad back in January. And if you've followed me on Instagram, you probably see all my posts about him. But I think that I never really talked about it. I never really talked about what happened, and I really want to share the story, especially now that Father's Day is coming up tomorrow, and my dad's birthday is on the 29th. I feel like I really need to talk about this. So my dad's name was Stephen. He was born on June 29th, 1966. He was only 53 years old when he died. He died from, I think it was like it was a brain aneurysm. So my brother, over winter break, had a basketball tournament. My dad kind of was the coach, but he was always like my brother's coach growing up. And so, we kind of all were planning to go to my brother's basketball tournament. It was going to be the first one I was going to be able to attend because of work and school. So it was kind of really exciting. So on Friday night, on January 3rd, my siblings and I kind of all just interacted with my dad somehow that day. My sister called my dad. He was just so excited for the next week. He was gonna take a week off of work and he was gonna get back into it, and he was just so excited for some new products. He was just, excited to go to the Japanese steakhouses, which is like our special place we go to as a family. And then I kind of just talked to him, just telling him like a friend was going to come over and have a sleepover the next day, just something very casual. And my brother, he actually spent the night with him. He went to dinner with him, and he watched Invincible. They watched Invincible together. I went to work. My sister was with her boyfriend. So there was just nothing unusual that night. I get back at like 4:00 a.m. I drove a coworker home. Nothing like unusual. Get home, go to sleep, kind of panic because I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta wake up at 10 o'clock. 6 hours of sleep. Wasn't really excited about that. So I end up, setting my alarm. I wake up at 10 o'clock. I'm a little tired, so I'm like, snooze. And then, 20 minutes go by, and I'm like, I should probably wake up. Would make sense. But I'm, looking at the time, and I'm like, it's 10:20, and I have not been woken up by my dad yet. We were supposed to leave a little before 11. So I was obviously really kind of concerned, but not like, I didn't think anything was like wrong. I just thought, we're sleeping. It happens. So I wake up my brother, who sleeps in that room, and then I walk to my dad's room. And, my dad likes to lock his door at night, and so I can't just walk in. So I was just knocking, and I didn't get an answer. Now, this was like the first sign something was wrong. And then I just heard like this loud snore. And so I'm just thinking, okay, maybe he's just, waking up, tired, something like that. So I go to the bathroom, wash off my retainers, text my dad, call my dad, try to just get any access into the room. And he doesn't answer. And at this point, I was just tired of waiting. I was going to run downstairs to get, a paper clip. But my brother grabbed me a cotton swab. Cotton swab? Q-tip, that's what it is. And so I ended up picking his lock. I just remember this is, like I said, a really hard story. Like, really hard. I picked the lock, and my brain's reaction to seeing what I saw and knowing my 12-year-old brother was right behind me was push my brother out of the doorway, tell him to go downstairs, get away from there, and run to my dad's aid. I mean, I've been trained in CPR. I was just so scared. Like, I might have the training, but implementing it, it's like, this is my dad. You know, I checked for pulse, I checked for breathing. There was nothing. He was warm, so I knew this couldn't have happened like long ago. And I got scared, and I couldn't do CPR. So I called 911. I got the paramedics there, and they were able to revive him, but he was kind of going in and out, which obviously was really hard. Now this is on the 4th, and I go downstairs, check my brother. Like, I haven't checked on him. I've been by my dad's side. And, my mom's running in, my sister's running in. They're, concerned. And I remember we all consider that the day my dad died. And we also consider that the worst day. Because at this point, we only know he went into cardiac arrest. That's it. We don't know what happened. We don't know why it happened. We don't know when it happened. We know nothing of anything. And I just can't explain that feeling of the unknown. Like, we were going to go have this great weekend of basketball. Great weekend, tournament, exciting, fun. Only for it to be the day my dad can't wake up. So we go to the hospital, and obviously the doctors are trying to figure out what happened, and we're just like listing off every disease he's ever had, any form of health information. We're just listing off could it have been diabetes, could it have been, an allergy attack, could it have been something like this? And we just couldn't get answers, and I just can't explain that thought process of, is this dead? Is this fine? Like, that thought process is just, you can't process it. And then, the doctor comes back and tells us, that he had a brain bleed, or the back of his brain was bleeding. Now, obviously, we are not medical people. We don't know what this means in terms of, like, what's the diagnosis, what's the severity. Like, we don't know any of this at this point in time. So obviously we're hopeful. Like, this is our dad. Like, this can't be real. So we're hopeful. And they end up transferring him to a hospital that had like a neurology section. And as we're gonna leave to go to, see him in the other hospital, I just remember, like, they were gonna do the flight for life thing for him. And I cannot explain that feeling of seeing that helicopter. Like, we walked out the front entrance and that was where the helicopter was. And we were just, it's an incomprehensible feeling. We saw when the helicopter took off, and it's like, when you're just normally sitting there and you see a helicopter, it's like, ooh, helicopter. It's not, oh my God, my family member is in there. It's not that. I just remember, like, that machine, that vehicle is holding my dad, trying to save his life. So we get to the other hospital and we're rushed to ICU, and the doctor, the neurologist, comes in and talks to us, and he basically tells us that my dad had an aneurysm. And obviously our questions are what's the survival rate? How severe is it? Is he gonna die? All these questions. And it's like, he was a realist. That first day, he told us, like, it's a chance he could survive. However, don't get your hopes up, because my dad had faced two very deadly things. He faced this aneurysm and he faced cardiac arrest. And combined, it's just double deadly. And then, I remember the doctor saying that they were going to cool his body, because what happened is his organs were, like, all reacting very fast to what was going on, that if you cool it, it might relax it, slow it down, kind of calm the organs. And so we obviously, that was what the plan was, and that we were gonna call in, like, all the time. So we decided that my brother really, really wanted to play in his basketball tournament and dedicate it to our dad, like, badly. So we decided we were going to go to my brother's 8 a.m. game. And so we all went home for the night. He was stable. And I made sure to call, like, every other hour to check on him. And he was consistent, stable, nothing too bad. And then we go to my brother's game, and after, I make the call, and the doctor's on the line, and he basically says, your dad is decreasing, like, getting worse, and get to the hospital as soon as possible. So my brother had another game, but we just ran out of there. And we got to the hospital and asked what was going on and what we could do, and everything. And he basically said they had figured out how severe the aneurysm was. And this was, like, rated as the most severe aneurysm you could possibly have. So very lethal. He basically said on Saturday when he got taken in, he had very slight neurological function. Like, if you put light in his eyes, he'd still, like, forgot the word. Dilate. And that he had, like, one other sense, and that was it. And then when we got there on Sunday, he basically said that there was no neurological function there, and there was just nothing. And so we broke down. And their next step was to reheat the body, and they were going to do the neurological test, because it was possible that because his organs were slowing down, that maybe it stopped his neurological function. So they were going to reheat him, rewarm him, and there were going to be 2 tests. The first one was going to be the neurological test, testing reflexes, being tickled, dilation, water in the ear, just stuff that people react to, just their senses, their yeah. And the second test was going to be basically a breathing test, where they were going to take him off of oxygen and see if he could breathe on his own. And we were able to decide if we wanted to do it that night or wait till the next day. And originally we thought that night, but we still had to wait for his body to be warm. And at that point, it was just better to go home and get sleep and come back the next day and be there and be able to deal with it throughout the day. And we had also been running on very few hours of sleep. And I mean like 5 hours, like max a night. So we came back the next day, did the first test, no neurological signs. And then they tested his breathing, and we were there. We watched every bit, and he couldn't do it. He was pronounced at 12:43 p.m. on January 6, 2020. Nobody thought it was real. Nobody thinks it's real. I mean, we've just lost everyone in our lives. Like, we've had 5 grandparents, and they are all gone. Our uncle and aunt passed away. I mean, my dad had 2 siblings. His sister died when she was 29, before we were born, and his brother died when he was 47, when I was 12. My dad was the oldest of his siblings to have made it. Like, we had made so many jokes about, like, him, like, Dad, you're gonna die young, you know, and he's the one that made the jokes. It wasn't just us. Like, let's be clear. My dad also made jokes about, like, you know, how he was probably gonna die young and all these things because of his siblings. And then he'd kind of get reflective and be like, dang, I actually am the last one. I just remember over Thanksgiving in 2019, we went to buy a couch. And he ended up running into an old classmate, and they just started what's it called? I just can't think of words right now. They started talking about reflecting about old classmates. And they started talking about classmates that had passed away. And my dad, I just remember we were going to the car afterwards, and we're sitting in the car, And my dad just starts reflecting. He's like, did you hear how many people he was naming? Like, those are people my age that have passed away. And we are just sitting there, like, reflecting because, I mean, this guy, his classmate, listed names. And then little did we know, like, 2 months later, it was going to be him. Not even 2 months. And I think that, they were talking about, how at the next reunion, my dad was going to have to go. And it's like, it's so hard to just explain what? I mean, my sister believes, how there's the 3 strikes, you're out. My dad had a car accident in June of last year, actually. And he ended up getting the accident, and they ended up finding this mass in his chest. It was benign. However, they got they had to do surgery on it. So he was dealing with that. And then he had an allergy attack like a month later from eating like shrimp without Benadryl. He made that mistake. He tried to do the experiment of like, let's make sure I'm allergic to it. He was really smart. Yeah, he ended up having an allergy attack in the middle of the night and driving himself to the hospital. When he had perfectly suitable drivers. Anyways, and then this happened. I mean, I can't speak for my siblings. But I know I have cried every single night. It's really hard for me to talk about it because I can't explain to anybody what I saw when I walked into his room. I had to be the adult there. I had to protect my brother. I had to sit by my dad's lifeless body telling him it was gonna be okay. I had to be the one to tell my brother that things were gonna be okay. I had to comfort my sister and be the strong one because I've always been the strong one. Anyways, my dad was everything to me. Literally everything. I miss him. With his birthday coming up, his first birthday, his first Father's Day without him. Yeah, that's really hard. Like, really hard. That is the story of what happened to my dad. I miss him. I can't express that enough. I miss him so much. I can't put it into words. Thank you guys for watching or listening to me. I didn't mean to. Yeah. Thank you.